Georgia Territory, the first time I worked in 1966, just before I came to Dallas and became Akbar.
Huh.
Leo Garibaldi was a booker then, and Ray Gunkel was still there. Don McIntyre had a little piece of it. And I worked Georgia several times. I went back in 1969 and 70 and 72. And before I went to New York in 76, after I came back from Australia, I went into Georgia as a base. They'd fly you into New York for your television, and I'm based out of Atlanta.
Ox Baker, I think, was there too around.
Ox Baker was my partner. And in 72, I had finished up in Vancouver, and Tom Renesto was the booker there. And I got the deal when I was going to come back. So word had come back that Gunkel had died. So I called Tom immediately to find out if everything was just. And he said, sure. So I went in there, and then Ox was there. And Ox, he's the one that really derived the heat from, I don't know if you remember Alberto Torres, the Torres brothers.
No.
See, well, they were big when Leo was booking in Atlanta, and they were California friends with Garibaldi. Well, Alberto Torres died in Omaha after working with Ox Baker, but it was a spleen ailment that probably wasn't for wrestling, but Ox got the heat for it. And then here came Gunkel.
Right.
And he was on fire then. 1972, that's when it was. And eventually they had a big split. Ann Gunkel went on her own, and Tom and then Joe Hamilton went with them, and I went with them for a while, and that was the big split.
What about Dusty? Dusty was there.
Dusty was there. Dusty's, when he started, he came through Oklahoma in 1967 when I was up there, and Dusty, we helped Dusty along. Yeah, I've known Virgil for a long time.
How was he like behind the scenes?
Dusty's a good guy, and Dick Murdoch was a very dear friend of mine too. And I remember when Dick started. See, Dick's father and my uncle were wrestling years ago in Amarillo when a guy named Dory Detton was a promoter. And Dickie was very, very close.
Any good stories on him? Because he's
Dickie, I got a good story on Dick Murdoch. Dick was, Dick would do just about anything, and he was always ribbing. So one night he drove. He had I don't know what it was. He had a little. We were between Monroe and Little Rock on that dark highway, 167, and we were going up to Little Rock to check in. But I don't know. Dickie had driven by himself for some reason. And this guy came in the territory. He had one of those big bubble gum deals that you put on like it's flashing, like a police officer.
right.
So we're on that highway 167 low, and I said, "My gosh, there's Dick Murdoch." And I said, "Put that on top of the car." So it was dark. So Dickie sees it and he pulls over. And we told him, says, "Hey, get out of the car." He said, "Oh, officer, I'm Dick Murdoch." Said, "Well, hey, we don't care who you are." I said, "Get out of the car." "Well, officer, I'm Dick Murdoch. You watch wrestling?" I said, No, I watch hockey in Minnesota. Get out of that car." Like that. And he kept saying, "I'm Dick Murdoch." And finally I couldn't help it. I just broke up. I don't even remember. He never forgave me. He said, "One of these days." But also, Dickie was a big Texas. He loved everything in Texas, University of Texas, the Cowboys, whomever. But I picked him up, and we had a show in Lawton, Oklahoma. So his cousin, Killer Brooks, was with me, and we were driving up there. So we picked Dickie up at the airport, and Dickie had diarrhea that day. So we picked him up, and when Dickie don't want to eat, something's wrong, and he getting squirming in that car. So you go up that way, you go up through to Wichita Falls and up to the Red River. So he kept squirming. I said, "Dickie," he said, "Well, I got to use the bathroom." And, of course, Brooks says, well, what, let's stop. He said, no, it's all right. So we finally get into a little town called Berg Burnett, Texas, and the Red River's right there. So when he got in Oklahoma, there was a road with a big culvert right there where you could go behind. He said, now pull this car over. So Dickie, he pulled that car over, and he went out and took a big dump, and he said, that's for all you Sooners and you too, you big bucket-headed Bill Watts.
That's awesome.
So, he didn't want to use the bathroom in Texas, so he chose Oklahoma.
What about Sam Muchnik? What were your memories of
Sam Muchnik? Early memories, and I was in the when I was in Tennessee, early. They were doing television at the Chase Hotel in St. Louis. Do you remember the history on that?
Yep.
Very high class, very well done. I was just beginning then, and I would go in there and do the jobs. And they paid good. Then I'd go back to Nashville. And then when I finally went into Kansas City later on, I got to work at the television. And then you'd always get a Hill House show there in St. Louis as being part of that. Sam was a very nice man. He was that was a good payoff, but everything was done first class there.
What was the party and the groupie scene like in the 70s?
More so than they are now.
Right.
Yeah. We always called them arena rats, and not long ago I was visiting with Carl Cox in Dallas, and I remember I was on the road with him, and he said, what, it'd be nice to let's get us a plaque and have a great big piece of cheese on there, Arena Rat of the Year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As far as after Sam Muchnik, when was the first time you actually met the original Sheik?
Eddie, I never really worked for Eddie that much.
Right.
But I was on several cards with him, and we are, we're genuine Middle Eastern, So that was always a pet peeve of mine. I know there were several places where the guys weren't Middle Eastern and did this thing here, but I really didn't like that.
Right.
And I couldn't be an Italian or a Mexican or a Spaniard or anything like that. So, and they couldn't really be an Arab. People have to see that.
It's true. Now you worked for Vince Sr. too.
Yes, I did, 1976.
What was that like?
That was good. When they would bring you in, Bruno was the guy, who incidentally was a tremendous man. So I was going to get my shot with Bruno, and Stan Hansen went in there the same time I did, and Frank Goodish, who became Bruiser Brody.
Right.
So Stan got the shot with Bruno, and they did the old scoop slam and robbed Bruno. Remember that?
Yep, broke his neck.
All right. So, and Bill Apter, and they were all, George Napolitano, they were all up around there with the magazines, and so they called me in the office and said, we got to follow up this angle, which was fine. So eventually what I did, I wound up working with Putski, who was over big time at that time. And I'd go into Trumbull, Greenwich, Connecticut, and places, and really made good money with him, so I didn't have any regrets. The only regret I really had is not working with Bruno, because he was an awesome man.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.